My name is Margaret Johnson. I'm a Canadian independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'm going to share with you a watercolor technique which we are going to be doing spritzing with. So this is the card that we're going to be focusing on and creating. So it's a pretty easy technique. You can create any background pretty much using any color combination, and various background stamps, like the ones found in a gorgeous grunge stamp set, are perfect for this. Any of those images that are just kind of splattered about, or the watercolor wash images, would work really well for this. So we're going to use the splatter image and the speckle image from the gorgeous grunge stamp set, so you can see those two right there, to create our background for this card. So it's a pretty simple technique. There's two options that work the best for this. Watercolor paper, obviously, because it's meant for watercoloring, would work really well because it has a nice texture to it. It's a thicker paper, holds the water well, and dries well. And the other one is the shimmery white cardstock available in the Stampin' Up! Catalog. I don't know if you can see that shimmer, but it's thicker, it has a nice surface to it, and it works well. Every time you do this, it's going to be different depending on the amount of ink you have, depending on the amount of water you use. So while I was playing with this, I did realize that the older ink pads, which I still have a lot of, the felt ones, it is a little more difficult to work with and get it to spritz. Lighter colors are also more difficult to get to stamp and spread around as well. But if you have good bold images, and especially if you have the foam ink pads, they will show up a lot better on these cardstocks than lighter images or the felt pad ink pads. So we're going to use chocolate chip. Nope, that's not for that part. That's, sorry, for the bottom part here, we're going to use the chocolate chip for the little speckle here. And we are going to use Old Olive for this part. And we will use Elegant Eggplant for the little speckle up here. And Island Indigo for our main blue here. And I did add a little bit of Blushing Bride in here as well. So those are the main colors that we're going to be using. You can use as few or as many colors as you wish to create your final card. So we will get started here with our Old Olive ink pad. And again, like I said, most of my ink pads, you'll have to pardon, I put re-inker in the lid there for other projects. This is an old style ink pad, so it will require a good ink up. And I did re-ink these pads, but you really, really want to work it. You won't have to work this hard with the foam ink pads, but unfortunately, I haven't replaced them all. So it looks a bit brighter than perhaps I'd like it to, but like I said, every time you make a card using this technique, it will turn out differently. And of course, you want to clean your ink pads in between, so you'll give them a quick spritz on the Stampin' Scrub. And just scrub that, clean it, and we're good to go for our next image, or next color, I should say. So we'll grab the Island Indigo. Now I stamped this one twice. My goal here was to kind of make it look like earth and then the sky. So we'll stamp that there, kind of overlapping over the green a little bit. And I'll just rotate that, and I'll stamp further up there. So that was my goal for this one, was to create that separation of earth and sky, especially using the hot air balloon. I wanted to create that kind of effect that's floating in the sky still. And we will grab our soft suede. I said chocolate chip, it is soft suede. And we'll just stamp some speckle across here. I want to add some dirt to our earth. And I'm going into lighter colors here, so I definitely don't want to contaminate my ink pads. All right, so Blushing Bride. So these are lighter colors, so they do not show up quite as well, as you may have noticed on my sample. And I'm not too worried about the contamination between the light Blushing Bride to the Elegant Eggplant. It's a much darker color, so I'm going to go ahead and just stamp that. We'll stamp that over there. So this is where the fun begins. Now this will take a while to dry, so I won't be able to piece it all together, but I can show you what I've used to create my base. So once we've done this, I'm going to put some paper towel underneath just to soak up any excess moisture. So for this, we're just using the Stampin' Up! Stampin' Spritzer. You get 2 in a package, and they're pretty inexpensive. I just filled it with water and spritz that up really well. And you can see the colors are already starting to bleed and shift and move. So that's perfect. So every time, like I said, you do this, it's going to turn out different. You can see the paper curling because the water's obviously starting to soak in. So it needs time to dry. So depending on how much water you use will depend on how long it will take to dry. I tend to put it in front of my heater so it dries a little bit quicker. So we'll set that aside. As you can see, it's really shifting differently than it did on this card. This card, it tended to stay more in place, and this card, it's really actually moving about, which is great. I actually have been trying to achieve that, and this is the first time it's actually worked. So I'll set that aside. So for the card base, very simple. We're using half a sheet, half of an 8.5 by 11 cardstock. And we cut it in half, so this is the 8.5 here, and we cut it at 5.5 inches, and then from the edge it's scored in 4.25. So that creates your card base. Then we have our mat here, which was cut 3/16 smaller, so it's cut at 5 5/16 by 4 1/16. So that's that mat. And I should have mentioned that our shimmery white cardstock here, it was cut at 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So that will layer nicely on our final card. So as you can see here, the 3 layers together, it's all nice and even to create just a perfect matting all the way around. So you'll have those pieces. Then you just need a piece of scrap white. This will be used to stamp your hot air balloon, which is done using the Lift Me Up stamp set, which is available in the Current Occasions catalog. And it was die cut using the matching framelets, or thinlets I should say, the Up and Away thinlets. So currently you can purchase this in a bundle, the 2, at 10% off. So check that out. Great set, great images, lots of different cards and projects you can create with that. So once you have that stamped, I did mine in Real Red, you just die cut it out. And once your piece is dry, you'll be able to stamp your sentiment on it and then just pop up using pop dots your little balloon, and then you're done. So that's it for the watercolor spritz. I hope you enjoyed the video.